More is making this Valentine's extra special, and as we celebrate love, let's take a moment to honor the incredible men in our lives. And guess what? They also stand a chance to win movie tickets
on this show.
Morning
here,
Cafe.
Morning Cafe.
Where else?
All right.
Something like that.
My name is Freddie Ndimuli, and in partnership with Sweet Burst Events Perfection Made Easy, that is your one-stop solution for all event needs. They specialize in event planning, decor, cake matron services, and the provision of event essentials, including catering through trusted partners. Whether it's a wedding, corporate event, or a private celebration, they bring creativity and excellence to every occasion.
Amazing. And Chef Brian, mixologist Amo, will also be joining us. Remember, it's Feel Good Friday. We will be having DJ Granite. Bansi Kimoyi will also be joining us later on. And today we are celebrating the amazing men, as you've mentioned. Who are you celebrating, and what's your special message for them? So share with us and stand a chance to win one of two cakes, courtesy of Valentine's Cake House and TV47's Gender Desk.
All right, interesting. It is Valentine's Day, but one person will not be spending Valentine's Day at home. And that is this gentleman, Waititu, who has been jailed for 12 years. Yes, that's one of the headlines on the front page of the Star, but the main headline, about half of students in universities are always high. Yeah. That's on the front page of the Star.
The Standard kick out Wetangula, quote unquote.
He's also not enjoying Valentine's Day today. Mabusu baba yao. And I think this is the biggest screaming headline. Can you imagine watching your boyfriend on Valentine's Day? Pale kwa front page ya gazeti wanamuita Mabusu.
Shindwe. Tema hiyo mat.
All right, that's it. Taifa Leo.
Daily Nation, how Raila AUC vote will shape Ruto 2027 race. D-Day.
D-Day. We're counting hours now, less than 24 hours to the elections of the AUC chairperson. Very many MPs are already in Addis Ababa.
Yeah.
A lot of focus is on Addis Ababa. We'll be checking out the weather situation there.
Yes. People Daily, how Waititu stole 221 million Kenyan shillings.
All right, they break it down for you on the People Daily. And in matters business, chaos as USAID contracts grants in Kenya terminated. So pain following the shutting down of USAID. Let's cross over to Uganda and take a look at what's trending there. They're not talking about Valentine's, thank God. They're talking about education. Schools to tighten senior 5 entry requirements. So following the examinations that whose results came out early this week, so this entire week they've just been talking about the performance and what to expect as they transition to senior high. A moment of truth, they call it, after UNEB released results showing a higher pass rate among candidates who sat senior 4 exams last year. Schools are now planning to raise the bar for those intending to pursue studies at A level. So, and yes, I know many Kenyans actually pursue A-level education in Uganda. Yes, so mujue cutoff imepanda juu kidogo. And that's the main story on the front page of the Daily Monitor. Pale chini, what Besigye's hunger strike means. Besigye is on hunger strike. Yes?
And IGAD, World Health Organization, give Uganda 22 billion shillings for Ebola and Mpox fight. Walikuwa record 9 cases this week. On Thursday, they were at 9. So
Uganda wakipata Ebola is just too close.
Yes.
Hapo ni kama tuko sawa tu na wao. All right. On the New Vision, still in Uganda.
Best UCE schools per region. That is Uganda. Uganda what? Okay, UCE in Uganda. Now, based on compulsory subjects, and that story is on page 6, Still Matters Education, and you see these best performing students. That newspaper.
You'll notice the difference between Uganda and Tanzania. Uganda talk a lot about education.
Yes.
Tanzania talk a lot about road infrastructure. That is where the problem is. Kenya, we talk more about politics on our newspapers. Yes.
All right. Why pastors want cohabitants declared married. Health matters. We have ARVs. Government tells Ugandans. Interesting. Okay.
All right. So that's as far as Uganda is concerned. Let's take a look at Tanzania. And they start off with the Citizen. Hope, caution as Parliament okays merger of TIC and EPZA. Parliament yesterday approved amendment of investment legislation to pave the way for the merger of the Tanzania Investment Center and the Export Processing Zones Authority. So that's big news for guys undertaking investments in Tanzania. Other quick highlights. And they also found space for baba yao on the front page of the Citizen in Tanzania. Iko pale juu on the top strip. They say, prominent Kenyan politician fined 1 billion shillings. Now you see they've converted it to Tanzanian money. They're making it look so bad. Yeah? Fined 1 billion shillings in 12 billion shillings graft case. Hey, hii ukisoma kama wewe ni Mkenya utahurumia baba yao sana. It's only about 51 million shillings.
Yes, 53 there.
Yeah, 51, 53. You can sell a few cars and it'll be okay.
Yeah,
I don't think it's good.
I
think atapata time by jioni atakuwa ameenda Valentine's dinner.
Absolutely. Na umesikia ya bibi kweli 500,000.
500,000. Hiyo nafikiri alilipa jana.
Any change.
Yeah, alilipa jana, yes. Hiyo maybe atalikuwa nayo kwa bag.
Zanzibar introduces bonds conforming to Sharia. That story is on page 10. And serious flaws in council-led development projects and Parliament's Local Authorities Accounts Committee yesterday exposed poor management of development projects by local authorities in various parts of the country, that is in Tanzania.
All right. Tukisalia kule Bongo, tuangazie gazeti la Mwananchi, na pia gazeti hili limepata nafasi ya baba yao hapa kwenye kurasa wa mbele. Wanasema gavana mkewe jela kwa ufisadi. Masuala ya Nairobi, aliyekuwa gavana wa jimbo la Kiambu Ferdinand Waititu amehukumiwa kulipa faini ya bilioni 1 pesa za Tanzania. Kwa hesabu za Tanzania about 53 billion. Uzuri wameandika hapo ni bilioni 53.8 milioni za Kenya hapa. Ukiambua 1 billion shillings Tanzanian money. Because do you even know what happens in Tanzania? Have you ever seen anything about Tanzania on our newspapers?
No, never.
Now, a governor in Kenya is convicted, and it's big news on the front pages of newspapers in Tanzania. That's how big we are. Yeah, that's how big we are. We sneeze, they catch a fever. Yeah? Kauli za Lissu kizungumkuti ndio habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili la Mwananchi. Wanasema vuguvugu la mabadiliko la Chadema laibua mitazamo tofauti. Wasira aweka msimamo kuhusu uchaguzi wa mwaka huu, wadau watoa njia mbadala. Masuala ya siasa yanapewa kipaumbele. Kumbuka uchaguzi mkuu kule Tanzania utafanyika mwezi Oktoba mwaka huu. Faida kuanzishwa mamlaka mpya ya uwekezaji nchini, Matters Investment, na pale chini wanasema sababu za joto kali zatajwa, mbinu kukabiliana nalo. Kwa hivyo wanasema kule Tanzania kuna joto kali. Masuala ya elimu, nasema kidato cha 4 shahada waitwa ajira zimamoto. Dar es Salaam vijana waliohitimu kidato cha 4 hadi shahada wanatarajiwa kunufaika na ajira ngazi za constable wa jeshi za zimamoto na uokoaji. Ukipata diploma ya high school unaenda unakuwa firefighter.
Wow.
Bila Tanzania hapa, jaribu Kenya upati.
Jaribu tu.
So these are the dailies locally and both regionally. We'll be back to take a look at the local ones in depth now that even the news about former governor Ferdinand Waititu's conviction and sentencing is making big news even in the region. Let's come back and take a look at the weather situation in the country and beyond, and we start off with Nairobi. Najua leo nimepita town hivi, maua imejaa kila mahali. Red all over.
As it should.
Love is in the air, definitely. It is 16 degrees Celsius, promises to get hotter. Yes. For lovers, it's going to get even hotter. Highs of 27 degrees Celsius later in the day. And as far as precipitation is concerned, 0.
Beautiful weather.
Beautiful weather for wapenzi watazamaji na wengineo. But expect some cloud cover this morning. You know, yesterday tulisema cloud cover in the morning. Kunyesha. So ukiona this serious cloud cover, there could be some drizzling in the morning. But later on, tunarudi maswala ya kawaida. Twende Kisii.
Kisii, 18 degrees, it feels like 8. Very comfortable weather for lovers. 31 degrees, that is the highest it will get. Cloud cover throughout the day. It will be sunny, toka hapo saa 4 hadi saa 10. Precipitation 0.
Right. Tuangazie holiday weather. Unajua mpoa wako anaweza kuwa amekuambia catch a flight, tukutane, uland pale Ukunda, alafu you will get a car that will pick you and take you somewhere nice. You know?
The Lulu is the Lulu in this case.
It is 26 degrees Celsius as we speak. Feels like 29. It's quite hot. Promises to get as high as 30 degrees Celsius. Sunny intervals throughout the day with a bit of cloud cover and a bit of precipitation around midday there. So that will give way to more sunshine later on. So kama umeambua panda ndege ukuje Ukunda, is the best weather for you.
Panda, see notes.
Panda. Tuone uko Kakamega kama unajuago mambo ya Valentine.
14 degrees Celsius in Kakamega. Very comfortable weather as well. Highs of 33 degrees. Precipitation 0, cloud cover throughout the day, and it will be sunny.
This is hot for Kakamega. 33 degrees Celsius. This is extra hot in Kakamega.
For lovers though, comfortable.
33 degrees is actually quite hot.
Okay.
Yes, this is the kind of weather you expect in Moyale and places like Turkana. Now it is in Kakamega. This is serious. Kunywa maji, even as you anticipate Valentine bliss.
Precipitation 0.
Finally, let's take a look at Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, because there's a lot of activity there. 24 hours to go before the AUC elections. We will know later on whether or not our candidate is successful. It is quite chilly this morning, 12 degrees Celsius. Promises to get as hot only as 24 degrees. Jua ukule hakuna sana. Sunny intervals throughout for the better part of the day, which will give way to cloud cover, serious cloud cover later in the afternoon. In as far as precipitation is concerned, 0 degrees, but pale unaweza pata manyunyu ya mvua kiasi. So it's not as hot as we expected. Probably it will get hotter tomorrow. Yes. Mambo kianza kuchacha. For now, that's the kind of weather we have. Sasa sababu najua mnatafuta maua, tuangazie maswala ya traffic. This is not normal traffic, normal Friday traffic. This is Valentine's Day traffic. Inatuanzia Karura Forest, sijui kwa nini, but Karura Forest is looking good all the way. But you can see, this is not typical traffic. This is ya kawaida. What you see here at Pangani Interchange is a long stretch of red as at 11 minutes past the hour. This is a bit abnormal, yes? So we do expect that if at all it continues like this, probably tuone kama imekataa hiyo maneno. Hii hapa. You see that? And it extends all the way close to where you have the exit to both Muranga Road and Forest Road. It's a long stretch of red, which is a bit abnormal for this time of the morning. Other areas that you can see, pale Jogoo Road is building up. Nimepotea hapo si Jogoo Road. Wacha niwache kudanganyana. Hapo ni Isli. All right. Wacha nitoke hapo niache uongo mingi. Tuangalie kwingine vile kunakaa. The other, yes, now Jogoo Road is here. Jogoo Road is not looking so bad, but yeah, it's also, you see that stretch? This is a bit abnormal. This is not the kind of traffic we expect at this time of day. It's a long stretch of red all the way from Makadara to the roundabout that comes immediately after Mbotela. That's a bit problematic. So it means that if you're using Jogoo Road, do expect to spend more time there. Pipeline 2, naita sijui stage mpya wapi huko, kuna mambo mengi na happen upande hiyo. And as far as Mombasa Road towards town is concerned, not looking bad. Yes, hata pale Nyayo Stadium, it's looking good today. It's green towards town. Yes. So that's a traffic situation, a bit abnormal probably because of Valentine's. Watu wanataka kuunda biashara wa kuuza maua.
Thika Road is notorious though.
Hapo ndio biashara ya maua iko. Okay. Yes. So yes, toka nyumbani saa hii if at all hujatoka, so that you can make it to town in good time.
But let's take a look at the quote of the day. Greatness is not achieved in an instant. It's the accumulation of small choices and consistent effort day after day. Even when progress feels slow, every step brings you closer to your dreams.
Let's now focus on the dailies today. And mahabusu baba yao, taarifa kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili la Taifa Leo. Sema aliyekuwa gavana ahukumiwa kifungo cha miaka 12 jela au faini ya shilingi milioni 53 kuhusu tenda ya mamilioni. Ferdinand Waititu kama julikana kama baba yao, jana alikabidhiwa maafisa wa magereza kuanza kifungo cha miaka 12 baada ya kushindwa kulipa mara moja faini ya milioni 53.6. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili, lakini pale kuna picha inamwonyesha baba yao akifungwa pingu tayari kupelekwa kizimbani. Ni kizimbani ama ni jela? Alienda Industrial Area Police Station prison until he is able to raise the 53.6 million shillings. The wife was fined about 500,000 shillings. Yes. Hopefully she managed to pay yesterday. I'm not so sure. But otherwise, she would also have to spend the night in prison as they try to raise the fine amount.
Or 1 year jail term.
For her?
Yes.
Yes, but for him, 12 years. 12 years, 53 million shillings, what do you think? Utalipa?
Pocket change.
Utatafuta hiyo pesa?
Baba yao.
Yeah. And this raises a question on whether this punishments are punitive enough. If I can raise this fine. Sinajua tu si hata wakinihukumu siku nyingine nita raise fine na nilipe niendelee. Yeah. So maswali yanaulizwa pale. Habari zingine pale juu, Raila roho mkononi, hatua ya ghafla ya nchi za SADC ikishangaza wengi. Asema maafisa wa kampeni ya mgombeaji wa Kenya wa kiti cha mwenyekiti wa AUC Raila Odinga wangali na ujasiri atashinda hata licha ya nchi 16 za SADC kumuunga raia wa Madagascar Richard James.
I saw that somewhere that Kenya sasa kichwa inawaka inafikiria itaingia SADC aje.
Richard James Randriamato. Randriamatrato.
Mandrato.
Enyewe SADC wakijiondoa kizungumkuti. Vidokezo zaidi kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili. Sifa isiyofutika ya Aga Khan duniani, wanazidi kuzungumzia sifa za Aga Khan. Na ghasia mazishini, familia yadaiwa fidia ya milioni 1.5. Wanasema vurugu za kisiasa kwenye mazishi ya Chifu Agostino Odongo zimefanya familia yake kutozwa shilingi milioni 1.5 kufidia vifaa vilivyoharibiwa. Na imagine sio wewe ulileta shida, ni wanasiasa walikuja akaleta vita, sasa unalipa. Trump na Putin, Zelensky wajadiliana. Rais Trump asema Putin na Zelensky ni yule wa Ukraine, wameonyesha nia ya kukumbatia amani. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Standard, kick out Wetangula is the main story there. Azimio call from his public persona, no one can deny his gift of eloquence, which is coupled with a deep understanding of the law. The Speaker's latest ruling in Parliament has, however, not gone down well with the opposition, and his low peers were now calling for his ouster. Story on pages 4, 6, and 7. Tunaona picha pale ya Papa ya Roma akiwa amekasirika kweli kweli. And you know, I saw another story on another newspaper inasema Ruto's move to save Wetangula. And yesterday it was alleged that, Ruto, the president, called for Junet Mohammed, that is the minority leader.
He was invited to State House.
Yes.
Did he go?
He didn't. Junet didn't go. Now inakuwa hard for the president to do something, because Kimia Chungwa was also called there. So we don't know if they went, but we know Junet did not go. That's the top story there. On the top strip, Waititu pays the price for his corrupt ways. Hiyo tumesema sana katika hizo gazeti zingine. True love put to test in hard times. Mambo ya Valentine. Burundi puts Kagame on attack notice. Story on page 22. Down here, Raila's date with AU seat finally arrives, and tomorrow heads of state will decide whether Raila Odinga becomes the continent CEO, a decision that will reverberate across the country. Tomorrow is the day. Story on page 2 and 3, and KCAC charges proposal engages parents and MPs. What are these charges? Let's see. Proposed measures to address education sector deficit. A lot has been mentioned there. So this story is on page 10 of the Standard. Quite interesting. You can take a look at it later on. That's the Standard.
All right, on the back page of the Standard, for lovers of the English Premier League, they talk about what remains after Liverpool were held to a 2-2 draw by Everton. And they look at Liverpool's final 14 EPL games as well as Arsenal's final 14 EPL games, just to know, hey, pale mambo ni kizungumkuti. So yes, you can get your latest on matters EPL there. Let's take a look at the Star. We do have a physical copy there. They talk about half of students' universities always high. This is a report released yesterday on the drug abuse, especially in institutions of learning. It's also there on the front page of the Daily Nation. Report lays bare drug abuse crisis in universities. So wanasema vijana wakiwa shuleni.
Shisha.
Kwanga most of the time wako pamoja, if you know what I mean. Addiction and depression devastate universities. That's a big story there. And it's interesting because today we are having the youth perspective right here. We'll be looking at that. Waititu jail for 12 years in 588 million shilling case. That story also features on the front page, as well as make or break as diplomatic intrigues play out in Raila race. So these are the three main stories. Being the weekend, of course, the Siasa and Sasa pullout. Majority-minority debate attests to weak governance. That story is in this inside pages of Siasa pullout on the Star this weekend.
All right. Daily Nation. Top story there, how Raila AUC vote will shape Ruto 2027 race. Pivotal veteran politician Raila Odinga's fate in tomorrow's election of the AU Commission chairperson will have huge political ramifications back home. Win or loss, it will trigger new realignments with key players in the 2027 State House contest, including President William Ruto, watching keenly and hoping for a favorable outcome. Odinga's quest suffered a blow yesterday after South African bloc rallied behind his rival. Kweli, the 11th hour. Mambo ya 11th hour. Kizungumkuti there.
Tumbo joto.
Tumbo joto. Tunajaribu kuangalia tutajoin Sadik vipi, lakini tomorrow is the day. We shall be there. Another story there, report lays bare drug abuse crisis in universities. This was a survey by Nakada released yesterday. And it says that university students are increasingly abusing bang and other hard drugs through edibles such as cookies, mabuyu, lollipops, and
mabuyu mumeweka vitu kwa mabuyu.
Wachaneni na mabuyu at least hiyo. Angalau hiyo. It also shows that female students are fast catching up with their male counterparts in substance abuse. You know, I'd agree to this. Mahali nimesoma mimi. Ladies were doing the most. Valentine's Day special pale out with roses, in with money bouquets. And on Valentine's Day, many women received red roses or teddy bears clutching love messages or are taken out for dinners. Others receive words of appreciation, hugs and kisses or smiles. But some Kenyan men are going above and beyond to show appreciation by gifting their lovers extravagant bouquets made of crisp currency notes.
Hao ndio hawatakuja men's conference. Hao ndio wanaharibu hii.
Tutawaweka,
wanaharibu, wanachafua soko hao.
Wewe wacha. Wacha mambo yako.
Tumewaona na men's conference, you are not welcome. That is simping.
You will go to heaven direct. All right, matters politics there. Gachagwa's allies kicked out of top Senate posts, and allies of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua in the Senate have been removed from chairperson positions of powerful committees as the purge gets underway. Story on page 7. Waititu fails to raise fine, sent to prison, and that's the Daily Nation.
All right. Tuangazie gazeti lingine, na this is the People Daily. They talk about how Waititu stole 221 million shillings. And they paint a picture of the money trail from the county government of Kiambu. This is the amount that went to Testimony Enterprise Limited, Director Charles Chege and wife. Some of this cash found its way to Charles Chege Mbuthia, Director Testimony. So they break it down mpaka mali imefika Lake Naivasha Resort, sold Bienvenue Hotel to Waititu. Eventually, Waititu alibaki na pesa ngapi kwa hiyo? Sasa ako jela. All right. Showing love for nature, this Valentine is there on the top strip also. Some Valentine touch on the front page. Ruto's plot to salvage Wetangula. That debate on what's happening in Parliament and whether or not Speaker Wetangula is biased and should be removed. Meanwhile, 40 MPs flock to Addis for Raila's big day in the sun. So wametumia kama excuse. Valentine's Day hawako wameenda Addis Ababa.
Yes.
Ati tunaenda kusaidia baba Addis Ababa.
Yeah.
Tunaona. That's the People Daily.
Na wakasema msijali, they are not using your money. They are only sponsoring 4.
Wako na pesa yao.
Yes.
Let's take a look at business news.
Chaos as the USAID contracts grants in Kenya terminated. Now, the US government has begun issuing notices terminating contracts and grants to programs it funds through non-governmental organizations in Kenya, marking an escalation from an earlier directive by President Trump, freezing billions of dollars in overseas aid support for 90 days. Now, USAID on Wednesday said termination notices to several top NGOs it funds in Kenya, sparking chaos of job losses and potential lawsuits by service providers, landlords, and contractors who have been tapped by the organization. Now, over 35,000 workers, USAID workers in Kenya, are going to lose their jobs following this. Quite unfortunate. Down there are 4 Cusco ex-officials charged with fraud, theft. Now, 4 former officials of Cusco have been charged with 82.8 million shillings stealing from the farm, even as security agencies intensified a manhunt for other suspects implicated in a 13.3 billion shillings fraud. And they make mention of them here. Jacqueline Atieno Molo, a former Cusco legal officer, was yesterday jointly charged with George Magutu Mwangi, that is former national chairman, George Ochola Owino, former finance manager, and Mercy Mutho, head of radio project. Here we see also matters love here, flowers in Auzo Pale. Florists are eating big today. On the ticker, Treasury raises domestic borrowing by 181 billion shillings. KRA cleared to claim 1.7 billion tax from that is RVR. On the top strip, is it conceivable that West Kenya and Sarai can coexist peacefully and work together within the premises of Mumias? That is Jaindi Kisero, quoted there on page 9 of this newspaper. And that is the Business Daily. All
right. Let's take a look at the cartoons. And today, the theme, of course, across is Valentine's. They try to draw parallels between what you're going through and Valentine's Day celebrations. And given that report by Nakada on how young people are using drugs, that's what the cartoon on the People Daily goes with. So happy Valentine's Day. There's a guy there na kona nywele ingine inakaa zeru sura tinginya na anavuruta moshi tayari. Alafu anaambia, babe, this is how high my life for you can go. This is how high. And ameshika weed anampa.
Wanataka ataingia box. Now that they're saying that they're also
wasema kina dada ndio wanataka hii mambo zaidi. Remember, weed or marijuana or bang is illegal. It's an illegal substance in Kenya. Ukipatikana nayo utafungwa. Cartoon there, vijana wanapatia babe weed.
This is the Daily Nation. AUC pale, we are seeing the 3 candidates wa AUC hapa katikati wakijaribu kuomba
kurusha mistari.
Yes. Kwa AUC, you see the map of Africa pale on top of it, and we see Mahandrat.
It's a depiction of this Africa. This is a proper African woman.
Please. We also want it. We see Raila Odinga, Kenya is here. We see Djibouti's Ali there.
Alafu Raila ndo amepiga magoti. Yeye ndo anataka sana. Yeye anataka, wengine wana bend tu, yeye anapiga magoti kama simp.
Umeita Raila Molo Odinga?
Si ni cartoon. Na ni cartoonist amesema, cartoonist wa Daily Nation.
Sio wewe.
Mimi sijui kuchora hata.
All right.
On the Star, it's about Babayao, who was sentenced to 12 years in prison yesterday with the option of paying a 53 million shilling fine. Na hapa anaonekana anaambiwa na the Judiciary, you could actually be out in time for your Valentine's date. We raised to your 53.6 million shillings. Na kama uko na pesa za Tanzania, ni bilioni moja tu.
Only 1 billion.
Only 1 billion Tanzanian money. And you'll be out in time for your Valentine's, because you can actually get out today if he manages to pay that fine. That's a cartoon on the Star.
This is the Standard. Tumbo imejaa cabinet, and inaambia pale budget, happy Valentine's my love. Budget imenona, it's a 4.2 trillion budget.
Yendo Valentine munakuja namna hii.
Yes.
I tell you. Lakini mbona ametumia shati ya purple? Unajua ile jamaa shati ya purple anajulikana, si mimi nimesema ni cartoonist. Anyway, on State of the Nation today being Friday, the Youth Perspective, Kabala Kile, National Deputy Chairperson, People's Liberation Party, that's formerly NAK Kenya, will be in studio. Alongside Nick Mwangi, Secretary General of the Kenya Ahadi Party, KAP, and Ken Babu, Opposition Youth Chair. Especially now that we're talking about this report by NACADA on how Kenyan youth, especially in universities, are abusing narcotics. This will be a good discussion alongside what's happening in the AU elections. Plus, do you feel that the kind of punishment meted out on corrupt politicians is actually enough to deter others from doing the same?
Yeah.
That's a good question. After that, we have the Valentine's Day edition.
Vijana barubaru.
Hawa ndio wale unaimbanga wimbo za kusini.
We, koma kabisa. Vijana barubaru will be here and you know how they do it. These are very, wanapendwa. Hata kama unawaita hivyo venye umewaita.
Vijana barubaru.
The women will be here.
Today is the day for simping.
Today is the day.
We shall be there no matter what.
Later on, we'll be having DJ Granite as well in studio, and Bansi Kimuya Weekend Q will be here as well.
Kwa hivyo leo ni muziki tu ya mapenzi.
Muziki tu ya mapenzi.
I tell you.
And leo tumeweka the men into consideration. We'll also be cooking with Chef Brian later on. Sasa karibia customer.
All right.
We'll also be having mixologist Amo pale tukifunywa mocktails.
This is the day
that the Lord has made for us.
Like even nilisema wacha Valentine's ikuje ipite itutoke. Then we can proceed with the year. You know, once we're done with Valentine's, then you can start enjoying this year.
No, on Wednesday we said Valentine should be every day. If you watch that episode that we're doing on Valentine's edition, Valentine is every day, and today we are just beginning. Anyway, love is in the air. TV47 in partnership with Silver's Mall is making this Valentine's extra special for you. And we are taking a moment to honor the incredible men in our lives. And guess what? They also stand a chance to win movie tickets. Sweetbus would also be here.
Yes. Sweetbust Event Perfection Made Easy is your one-stop solution for all event needs. They specialize in event planning, decor, cake matron services, and the provision of event essentials, including catering through trusted partners. Whether it's a wedding, corporate event, or private celebration, they bring creativity and excellence to every occasion.
Amazing. Now, the question that we are asking is, who are you celebrating and what's your special message for them? This Valentine's, we're dedicating it to our men, the men in our lives.
Right.
At least hata mimi huyu anasimama hapa kanda yangu every day. We'll see what we'll
I'll get something.
do. We'll see. Anyway, interact with us on our social media platforms, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and YouTube, TV47 News KE on X. My handle is at @Ann_Dida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe Feel Good Friday.
Yes, my X handle is at Freddy Ndimuli.
Stay with us.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth. As long as it is strong, and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
Of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check it.
The use of drugs and substance abuse within the learning institutions is becoming a new norm among university students from different parts of the country. The recent statistics released by NACADA indicating that 87% of students are able to access alcohol, while 64% can access cigarettes, followed by shisha, vape, and nicotine pouches. The study reveals that 61.7% of students have smoked cannabis, which has chemicals that are medicinally used for relieving severe pain, such as fractures and inducing euphoria. In addition, 47.6% of students reported using cannabis edibles, which include weed cookies, weed mabuyu, weed lollipops, and weed juice, followed by cocaine and heroin. The study also found that friends were the primary source of drugs for 66% of students, with others sourcing drugs from canteens, bars, neighborhood premises, fellow students, online websites, and even non-teaching staff members. Some lecturers have also been implicated in this lucrative drug trade. In response, Cabinet Secretary for Interior Kipchumba Murkomen has ordered investigations within learning institutions to identify the shops and premises involved in the drug business. CS Murkomen promising that appropriate action will be taken in accordance with the Constitution.
The anti-narcotics unit within the Directorate of Criminal Investigations must therefore up their game in their enforcement of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances.
Murkomen further stated the need to enhance the capacity of police forces to combat narcotic drugs effectively. The results also showed that female students had a higher prevalence of moderate to severe depressive disorders, with 6.4% and 4.1% compared to their male counterparts, who had rates of 5.2% and 3.0% respectively. Meanwhile, Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja shared his concerns about attempts to block his nomination as the next IG, and discussed how profits from the drugs trade are often used to finance terrorism.
Somebody said that there is a new sheriff in town and we need to pocket him quickly so that we can be able to continue dealing with the drugs, with the bag in particular. And then I sent a message which was loud and clear. I said, number one, anything that can be able to mess up with our youth, I will never be party and parcel to that.
NACADA CEO Anthony Omerikwa has urged society to take responsibility in instilling discipline among the youth to curb drug abuse. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Yes, indeed, and that is how we start our conversation this morning on the Youth Perspective. It is the main headline on the front page of the Star, talking about how university students are usually high. It's also there on the front page of the Daily Nation. Report lays bare drug abuse crisis in universities. A new survey has laid bare the drug abuse crisis in Kenyan universities, with students increasingly abusing bang and other hard drugs through edibles, such as cookies, mabuyu, also known as baobab, lollipops and juice. The report also goes on to say that morphine, which is a potent opioid, used for management of severe pain, was reported as an emerging substance of abuse. Now, the study also unearthed alarmingly extensive depressive disorders among students, with approximately 1 in every 17 suffering from moderately severe depressive disorders and 1 in 29 experiencing severe depressive disorders. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning for the Youth Perspective, beginning on my immediate left. Kabala Kile, National Deputy Chairperson, People's Liberation Party. Karibu sana, Kabala. It's good to have you in studio. Nick Mwangi, Secretary General, Kenya Hadi Party, also with us today on the other end.
Thank you, sir.
And,
good morning, Fred.
Good morning. And right in the middle, Ken Babu, Opposition Youth Chairperson. Karibu sana, Ken.
Thank you, bro.
And for the Youth Perspective today, this is a rather worrying headline that there's increased use of narcotics among the young Kenyans, the youth that we're talking about, going to the extent of talking about the mental burden, the burden on their mental health. This statistics is very worrying. And if you look at the breakdown on page 10 of the Daily Nation, they talk about alcohol being the most abused. 40.5% of students abuse alcohol. 14% have smoked cannabis. Cigarettes comes even third after cannabis. Then there are cannabis edibles, shisha, miraa, mogoka, vape and e-cigarettes, as well as other inhalants. There's cocaine, heroin. This is definitely a worrying trend, Kabala, if we may start with you. When we discuss issues to do with the youth and how they're able to adjust to the dynamics of every day, including the budget-making process that we're already looking at, this is worrying. Their mental capacity to actually handle everything with this kind of statistics.
This is a coping mechanism. First of all, happy Valentine's.
Oh yeah, happy Valentine's today.
Happy Valentine's. So I think this is a coping mechanism by the students. Look at the funding model that we've been given. You earn the band model, band number 1. Your family earns 6,000. You're given 75% in scholarship, 30% in help, and 5% you pay. Medicine per annum is around 600,000. 5% of that is more per month for what your family is earning. So what do you expect the students to do? You want to study, you want to have a better life. That's what you've been doing. You've been told kusoma ni kujitegemea. Now you get to university, you get a government that doesn't even value the education system. Your mother is a farmer. The fertilizer they've been given is not up to standard. You're losing from your earnings as a family. So what do students do when you're met with this kind of stress situation? These are coping mechanisms that you're seeing from the stress that students are going through. Look at the lecturers. They're threatened to strike again. They're saying, also I've seen in the paper, they're saying other people who are being convicted here found to be doing selling drugs are the lecturers. How will they survive? This is appalling. Okay. And I put it to the government that it is as a result of the failed system of the Kenya Kwanza government that has forced the students to resort to this kind of coping mechanism. It may be a coping mechanism, Ken, but this has a risk of jeopardizing the future of an entire generation because they're saying even girls, especially young girls, are now consuming more bang than their male counterparts. This has a potential of disenfranchising an entire generation. Even though it could be a coping mechanism, it is definitely worrying.
I'm afraid I think I will concur with my brother from PLP that indeed the bang smoking or the abuse of drugs amongst our students today is as a result of pressure and stress that they are getting from different quarters. You know, not only that they are stressed on the issue of funding or something, but they are also traumatized by the rate at which this government is abducting and disappearing with their colleagues. You know, it is unfortunate that my colleague disappears, and then from nowhere we find the body lying at a city mortuary. But the body not just lying, but in a very bad state. So these are some of the reasons, these are some of the contributors to this issue of drugging, so that, they are trying to get themselves off that stress. Again, these students are also affected by pressures from their parents. You get that? Because these parents are the same people who are trying to cope up with the pressure of financial burden that this regime has put into them. Look at, the finance model, the new funding model. It's not functional. It's pressurizing. It has ensured that each and every family in this country has a financial crisis. The parent is sick. There is now the burden of paying. If a family has about, let's say, 3 or 4 kids or 2 in university, they cannot manage that. Yesterday, I had a meeting with about 50 student leaders. And the biggest issue that is coming out is the stress that the students are undergoing. Technical university are striking. They've not had exams. There are no classes going on. Lecturers on the strike. So such level, in that situation of crisis and misunderstanding and all that confusion, students are resorting to this drug consumption to reduce their level of stress. So what I'll suggest is one, the Kenya Kwanza regime must take education seriously. When Kibaki left, he left us with free education. When Uhuru came in, he gave us 100% transition. Why must this Kenya Kwanza regime led by President William Ruto interfere with the education system.
Okay.
It is an intentional and deliberate move to interfere with the future.
All right.
That's why we must not allow it.
But Nick, if we say that there's general dissatisfaction among this generation of younger Kenyans, then this is a method they found of channeling their frustration. It also occurs that there's a lot of lethargy in as far as the kind of push towards resolving the issues that they complain about. Once you opt for drug use, then they're very lethargic in as far as pushing for probably an overhaul of the university funding model or any other things that they feel goes against them. Are really drugs the best way for Kenyan youth just to cope instead of pushing for a change in policies?
Fred, the young people have been put in a position whereby they are in between a rock and a hard place. Because when I look at Kibaki's system, when it came the free education, everyone was supposed to go to school. But one of the technicalities that they overlooked was having so many graduates on the market, but very few industrial component of placing them. So we have so many young people in school are not knowing where they will be going. So the number has shot up from 45% in 2007 to right now we are at 85% in 2025. So and the number is likely to go up, Fred, because these are the, if you hear this panel, these are some of the challenges we are going through as young people. Because back at home, at the village, you are the hope of the town. Because you have gone to primary school, you have gone to secondary school, you have gone to campus. But you are the campus level. Today, as Babu reports, my alma mater, because I did my undergraduate in Technical University of Kenya, the students are on strike, the lecturers are on strike. You can imagine a whole year will be wasted with these people. So what happens? You know what happens to an idle mind? There's no employment and there's no school. They just fall into drugs, Fred. Yeah.
The challenge here I'm seeing is that the place of Kenyan youth in being agents of change, because historically the youth have been the ones pushing for any significant change, even in the clamor for multi-party democracy. It was basically university students who are on the streets pushing for this change, and eventually they managed to get it. But it would appear that the current crop of young Kenyans are opting for easier ways of not doing that. Drug abuse, for example, instead of pushing for real change. How else can they now be reconverted back towards channeling their energies in the right way?
It's a societal issue, Fred. When you speak about all the others and who came earlier, they had mentors. Who are the youth of today looking up to? Remember what Matiang'i said, if we're not careful, tutakuwa na bunge ya wash. So what did he mean with that?
That's a situation.
That when leaders don't mentor the youth into right leadership, into good examples, stand-up citizens, what will remain? The uncouth and the negative side of society will come up. And that's what, in terms of leadership, has come into our nation. And that's the example that the youth are seeing. There's no mentorship, programs. These leaders, they always keep saying that siku yenyu ya uongozi ni kesho. Look at what is happening in the States with Dodge. You see, Trump, yes, is an old leader, but through Dodge, they're using young leaders, young boys in the early 20s, mid-20s, to streamline the efficiency of the government. They're being given roles in leadership positions. But now what do you see in our situation? Situation is that it's a competition between the young and the old, because the old do not want to transition and leave the leadership position to the young people. So what ends up is that the youth, because they don't have the resources to marshal up and fight for these spaces, no more than the older people, they're not able to move into these spaces. So unfortunately, during the times of when they were clamoring for the second liberation, the people like Raila, they had his father as mentors, Matiba as mentors. But now, what you see, the Gen Z even today, you don't even know who's the mentor of this liberation movement. So it's all left to the young people. So I feel it's a situation, it's a situation that we are left on our own and should find and must find our own way.
Do you see the problem in, because last year the Gen Z came out very clearly, very vocally to talk about issues around the budget making process. We are embarking on the same right now, especially in Parliament, over the next 4 months or so. Yet we see a lot of lethargy from the same group that was very vocal last year, and one wonders what happened to them. Is this what happened to them?
Let me tell you, Fred, that number one, the budget, the Finance Bill 2025, we are looking at it closely. In fact, this time around, I think the members of Parliament as well as are eye-opened and they are very keen on what they are going to put in that, how they are going to handle this issue. Because whatever happened in 25th June might as well repeat itself, and this time it might be worse. Let me tell you, Fred, and my colleague panelists here, senior members of their parties, one of the biggest challenges the young people are having, most of the issues of political engagement, is proper capacity building and mentorship, just like you mentioned. Our parties are not, most of our parties are not designed to build the capacity of young person. And if you look at, and I'm very happy that these two gentlemen are serving at the national level, top leadership of their parties. That is the conversion they want to drive. For the longest time, we've had political parties branded and, they say that young people, this is our party. But when it comes to leadership distribution and decision making, we don't get the real young people at the top. So number one, I want to congratulate the two parties for at least ensuring that there is a face of young people in those decision making table, because that is where the decisions are made and that is where the influence is made. Number two, I also want to just encourage that as we keep engaging and looking into solutions on how we can help our young people in get engaged meaningfully and intentionally, we can also tap into other donors and sponsors. There are many people who are willing to support a cause, but they want directions from different organizations. For instance, recently we had a retreat in Machakos with one of the donor supporters who are so much interested in building the capacity of young people within political parties. The Oslo Center, you heard it?
Yeah.
So we in Machakos we developed something we call the Youth Accountability handbook, that it is designated to guide political parties on how to ensure that young people within those party structures are elevated and engaged meaningfully. And on 21st of this month, they've convened a Youth League Summit. Youth League Summit, this League Summit by the Oslo Center is geared towards bringing young people in political parties to engage with their leadership, that is the Secretary General, the party leaders, in a one-day engagement forum, so that they can identify and highlight the challenges they are having to be sorted. I'm saying this because we cannot tell the Gen Z, join political party A or B, whereas the young people who are already in those parties are not being given the opportunities. Get that? It will be very difficult. It becomes a problem. You go outside there and tell people, we want to join this party A, C, and B. But they are asking you, you are a member of that party. You are not far from our age. How many opportunities have you been able to secure through that party? What is your position in that party? How influential is your position in that party? How do you influence decisions in that party? If you cannot answer those questions, it becomes so difficult to convince this group to join your party. Yes. So what I'm saying, because I'm saying I brought that because I have two senior officials of the parties here. Because these guys, National Deputy Chairperson and SG, these are people who make party decisions. And if they don't do, they influence those decisions. Okay. So I think we need to look at it from the political party angle as well. Yes. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you're going to talk on these TVs. Decisions will be made at the ballot. And chances are so high that you make it through a political party. Yes. And I know when we started, we were quick to blame the government for failure to do one or the other things. But yes, as Ken Babu says, political parties are key in trying to heal this level of disillusionment we're seeing in Kenyan youth. Do you feel that as a party, Nick, Kenya Hadi Party, you have the capacity to even lead such a conversation? Because when it comes to drug abuse, no one wants to touch it.
Before we get to the political party question, Fred, you had asked why the young people seem to be giving up. And I will tell you why. Fred, we are living in a country whereby the rule of law is not respected. Day in, day night, young people are getting abducted when they go to the street to fight for their rights. Secondly, recently we saw the President William Ruto, cautioning our parents that he needs to teach us as a generation good manners. But they themselves as our elders, they don't seem to be respecting the terminology good manners, because they're sending insults to one another left, right, center. The other day we were told that tuko na mapepo. The other day we were told that we are fools. The other day we were told that we don't have PhDs. So those are the languages that are going on the street. Now, as a young person, try and imagine that you want to fight for your right. On the other hand, your parent is having reservation because the frustration, the anger, the sadness that goes on when one is abducted. It's really absurd, Fred. And in as much as the government does not want to take responsibility to this issue, Fred, this is where we are calling out the government. They have, let me say, 90% control of our lives. Because when we go on the ballot, as my good friend Babu is saying, one, what is at stake is education. Two, health. Three, the economic level of the young people. Right? So it is very important, and that's why we've been saying here that regardless of our choices as young people, sometimes it's already predetermined, Fred. And we, in as much as we will go on the table and fight for our rights, Fred, the old people also have to take in the factor that they have to mentor the young people. Fred, in our parties, coming to that question, personally, I think there's still a struggle because the awakening of young people becoming going into parties is now becoming more serious. And I also want to congratulate, my good friend likes to play really humble. He's the chairperson of DAP. They recently launched their party in Karen. So we see that
these are senior politicians.
Yes, these are senior politicians.
Okay.
So and the unfortunate bit is in the many elections that have been there, young people have always been seen as just a tool of mobilization, not a tool of decision making, Fred. So this is an opportunity for us to come together. But we are divided also along our own interests as young people. Because when we sit at the table, Fred, at the same time, we also don't agree. We forget our issues. So it's also a call to us as young people that we need to sit down together. Let us look at what is our common issues.
Whose responsibility is it to marshal this youth bloc and probably push it towards one singular agenda?
Fred, just before you come in, my brother has mentioned something about the position and the responsibility of the government in this, in ensuring that young people are meaningfully engaged and their issues are represented. I want to tell you, Fred, and this is a national TV, that this government has made a deliberate effort to ensure that the youth issues in this country are not well addressed. Look at the Ministry of Sports and Creative Economy and Youth Affairs. Since this government came into place, the only person who has appeared to be slightly young in that ministry is the Babu na Mwamba. You know that? Any other occupant of that ministry, we've been dealing with old guys. It doesn't mean that in this Kenya Kwanza regime, even in UDA alone, there are many potential young people who can lead that ministry. Straightforward with a lot of intellect. Number two, look at the National Youth Council. National Youth Council was formed by Kibaki to ensure that issues around young people are addressed accordingly, from the grassroots to the national. 12 years down the line, the council has never done any election. Look at that. The council, as it is right now, is a secretariat of government employees. They cannot question this regime on anything. In fact, the National Youth Council ought to have questioned this government on the issues of youth abductions, Gen Z killings, disappearance, and extrajudicial killings. But the National Youth Council has not done anything. They've not pronounced themselves on that. Look at the new funding model. The most affected person is a young person. The NYC has not pronounced itself on that. So you see, we have a moribund caucus called National Youth Council, which is not functional. And what we are saying is, the elections were supposed, according to when the president was in Mombasa, and he pronounced himself that the council will have election this time. Kipchumba Murkomen, being the CS then, did a gazettement of the election steering committee, drew up a calendar. According to that calendar, they ought to have done what we call civic engagement to tell young people on how they can participate in National Youth Council elections, the position and the role of National Youth Council, how they can get involved in all this process. That has not happened up to now. Now, they are supposed to, their elections are supposed to happen from 7th of March to 21st. Up to now, there is no communication.
And they will not.
There is no clarity on where the budget for civic education has gone to, because anyway, it was budgeted.
There appears to be a clear gap somewhere. And in the absence of a proper university student leadership, because it faces its own challenges, it would appear that the Kenyan youth are suffering from a leadership crisis, that no one is able to actually marshal the Kenyan youth bloc in any direction.
Is it a leadership problem, really? Because I think it's not a leadership.
They kept insisting they're leaderless from last year. Then who do they listen to? You've already said, and you seem to agree, that the government is not the solution for you.
The government is not the solution.
Is not.
Yes.
The government is not. Even picking up from National Youth Council, they will not have an election because parliamentarians gamble forward. What do I mean by that? They will make laws that will make sure the youth will not galvanize. Do you know why NYC doesn't have elections? Because they have elections the same way parliamentarians have elections. Yeah. The first time they had an election, there was a youth leader who was elected in a constituency with more votes than the elected MP. So they knew, you know what, we cannot let this thing continue.
So it's an engineered leadership crisis.
It's an engineered leadership crisis. That's a parallel government. So that's why you see when the government is funding them, it's not funding them to do all these activities that they were set out to do. Empower the youth, civic education. No.
Perfect definition.
So what is happening is that it's not a matter of lack of leadership in terms of the youth. It's a deliberate effort by the people in power to make sure that the youth do not galvanize behind a singular motion.
And it is working.
And it is, unfortunately. But the good thing is that 25th showed us with the budget finance bill that we can have a common agenda. And going forward, even with this budget that they're forming, I'm seeing a situation where we'll come back because they're proposing a 4.2 trillion budget. They're able to only raise 2.2 trillion. They're telling us 3.9 will go to recurrent. Only 730 billion will go for development, for 30 for counties. No. Now, this is an issue that they want to bring us together.
Do you foresee, Nick, something similar to what happened last year, especially around the budget-making process?
As a matter of fact,
the youth voice.
As a matter of fact, I seemed an improvised 25th June 2024, Fred, because young people are also very tired. They are tired of the government of the day. They are tired of the lies that are propagating by the day. They are tired. Today, I was just reading the paper. I see young people who are chairing the committees of both Parliament and Senate have also been asked by speaking their mind, by saying that this government that they also voted in for is not working, Fred. So young people have been put in a position whereby they have to constantly retaliate. Retaliate in the education sector, retaliate in hospital sector, retaliate kwa pesa mfukoni, Fred, because the stakes are going higher by the day. And the frustrations of young people, you can look at this table, you can see a lot of frustration. No employment, Fred. We cannot even speak about the education funding model because it's affecting across. Now it's also affecting our lecturers, Fred. We cannot speak about the issue of abductions, left, right, center. We cannot speak about the issue of health, Fred. So what will make these young people not come out again?
All right. Now they're opting for the abuse of drugs. And that's a headline on the front page of the Star. About half of students' universities are always high.
Fred, if you look at the people who are supplying these drugs, they are the same people who are holding the positions that should be used to ensure that we are not having such reports on TV. You get that? But what have they decided to do? After ensuring that they've destroyed the education system, they've ensured that there's zero employment plan for young people. Now they are doing business. Because this is an idle group. This is a very large number of people with nothing to do and stressed. So they are trying to run away from the realities of life, that we do not have jobs, we have nothing to do, our education has been scrapped. You get that? So what we are saying is, the government knows who is doing this business. They need to deal with it.
All right.
Yeah. They just need to deal with it directly.
And mind you, next to each and every major university, there's a police station. There's a DCI desk there. How can this come out when the police are there? What are they doing? They're telling us, yes, they're always high. What have they done? How did those drugs get there? And you see, a university that has like 2,000 people, and they're saying 80% of the students, that's how many. So what amount of drugs are getting into these universities? How are they getting in? Why are they not answering this question?
And what is happening to Nakada, Fred? Because
Nakada has released this report. They're the ones telling us how high university students.
They've released this report. What are they doing?
What are they doing?
Fred, when you talk about, we are seeing here, purchasing drugs online, and then we have canteen bars, premises within the neighborhood. I don't think with the bars and canteens that I've seen, the bars that I've seen around the universities, I don't think there's a student who has the capacity to operate such bars. Chances are so high that the people producing these reports knows who is running those bars.
They're the ones
and they're not doing anything about it.
The reports are not
And remember, before you go to a break, remember there was a directive by the government. Within, was it 300 meters? 300 meters. Any school, there's no drug selling facility. There's no bar. There's no spirits and wine. There's nothing. Then how comes you're seeing all this?
All right. So, and the question is, yes.
Before you close it, because one thing that my colleagues are also forgetting to say, this is also an engineered situation to put the young people on the main goal that they're supposed to be focused on. Right. Right. And it is so much empowered that the young, it seems as if it's a reason of its own of the young people not seem to be focused, excuse me, on what is actually going on in this state of the country, Fred. Because if you are incapacitated mentally, Fred, you cannot wake up, you cannot do anything. It seems like you are very lazy. It seems like you are very irresponsible.
It definitely plays into the hands of senior politicians that the youth are not able to be clear-minded enough to pursue
finally,
the agenda. Yes.
It's interesting. I'll just let me take a pick up from there. It's interesting this report comes after the president was in Isiolo talking about drugs, and once he left, 42 young people were caught. So is it engineered to again now start abducting under the guise of
Right. But I think this report was compiled by, I think, Jacqueline Macharia. I think what we need to do, leaders, we need to find this data from Nakada. We establish which universities and how did they do these samples. Because I don't think between the time that the president was in and today, Nakada cannot have done.
Yes, I'm sure this was conducted before. Yes, the headline on the front page of the Star: about half of students in universities are always high. Yes, have you noticed that? Yes, It's a new Nakada report revealing drug abuse crisis in universities. It's also featured on the front page of The Nation and on the inside pages as well. That's one of the biggest stories this morning. The other one has to do with corruption, and it also features on most of the front pages. It is the main story, I think, on Taifa Leo, Sema Mabusu Babayao. On the Standard, they talk about Waititu paying the price for his corrupt ways. It is definitely one of those stories that was covered as well on TV47. Let's watch the story, then we come back and discuss this issue about the fight against corruption. All right. So yes, it is one of the biggest stories there. If we could have the front page of the Taifa Leo. The story about Waititu being slapped with 12 years in jail with the option of paying about 53.6 million shillings. Interestingly, this story also has found its way to the papers in Tanzania. It's actually on the front pages of the dailies in Tanzania. That's how big it is. But in Tanzanian dailies, because we looked at the Citizen and also Mwananchi, and they found space on their front page to talk about Waititu. In fact, the bail there, or the fine, the 53.6 million Kenya shillings is equivalent to 1 billion shillings Tanzanian money. But yes, as I said, it is one of the stories covered by TV47 as well. Let's watch it.
Thursday morning at the Anti-Corruption Court in Milimani here in Nairobi, former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu confidently entered the courtroom with high expectations regarding his case. After a 2-hour waiting period, the hour of reckoning finally came. Magistrate Thomas Nzioki taking his seat to rule over Waititu's fate. Having been found guilty on Wednesday, Waititu was given a sentence of 5 years in prison or a 2.5 million shillings fine. He was also found guilty of irregularly issuing tenders in Kiambu County, while serving as the county boss, and the court imposed a necessary punishment of 51 million shillings, and if in default, an additional 7 years in prison.
You pay a mandatory fine of 51,249,000, equal to 2 times the benefits, and in default, then you serve 7 years imprisonment.
Susan Wagari, Waititu's wife, was also ordered by Chief Magistrate Thomas Nzioki to pay a 500,000 shillings fine or face a 1-year term in jail. Nonetheless, the magistrate ordered that the terms be applied concurrently.
I'll sentence you to a fine of 500 in default, 1 year imprisonment. And I think that's the only sentence that you'll carry. So you can sit down.
Their co-accused, Charles Shege, a director at Testimony Enterprises Limited, was sentenced to 9 years in prison or pay a 295 million shillings fine, while his wife Beth Wageshi was jailed for 3 years or pay a fine of 1.4 million shillings.
That sum is well calculated and equal to 2 times the benefit that you derive from that county.
We succeed to get the convicts out on bail pending appeal. The High Court will impose certain conditions to be met.
Shortly after the sentencing, Waititu's counsel disclosed that the former governor was ill and asked the court to grant him permission to receive medical care in hospital. On Wednesday, the Anti-Corruption Court found Waititu, his wife and the co-accused guilty of 8 counts of conflict of interest, fraud and dealing with the suspect property. The court, however, acquitted them of 3 counts of money laundering. The defense team now has a total of 14 days to appeal before High Court on their quest to be given a bond that will necessitate them find the amount of cash they were fined at the Anti-Corruption Court. Mike Kagwango, TV47, from Milimani Law Courts, Nairobi.
Definitely a story that has generated a lot of interest on all the front pages of not just Kenyan dailies today, even in Tanzania. But is it consequential? That's a question that we've seen. This is a second county governor or a former county boss getting to the level of conviction in a corruption-related case. But probably many people feel that 53 million shillings is something he can raise. And if anyone is able to raise the amount, then it's probably that they go scot-free. That's a perception by Kenyans. Do you share that perception?
Consequential, because if Tanzania wanna run the story, it means something has been done. To me, finally, the teeth of justice have grown and they're biting. It has shown that when intergovernmental lack of cooperation, the DCI, ODPP, EACC, when they're not able to conclude cases of anti-corruption, it's like engineered. How comes for Waititu this has happened? So to me, it's a plus. It's an example to others. But what I truly and really want to see is more cooperation, such like today, such like what happened to Waititu. When you see the ODPP, remember a few months back, ODP withdrew cases, corruption cases, with no apparent reason. When the court asked them, they said they gave no reason. Remember during the elections, EACC gave almost over 200 names of candidates wale wako na makesi or accusations. What did IEBC do? Wale wanaitwa wash, they were given a clean bill of health. So to me, this is a first, and I like it, but I'd want to see more of such cooperation. Because I don't want it to look like it's a witch hunt against him, because you know a lot of governors who have had such, even MPs, remember Waluke? Waluke was convicted and sentenced.
And you still see him in
the
House.
Yes, his name passed. And remember that was before the elections.
That's a concern, that senior politicians, because these are people who've controlled billions of shillings as county bosses. 53 million shillings may seem like a lot of money to a common mwananchi, but to a former governor, probably many people feel that it's almost like a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, let me just finish on that one. Because even when you see when the anti-corruption bill and act, you see that the fine is when you charge them this case, it's 1 million Kenya shillings or 10 years. Or if there's a benefit, it's twice the amount that you are given. Is 1 million truly enough? Do you know how I see it? The politicians, especially the MPs, they know that, you know, one day I want to be a governor. Would I want to create a rule or a law that will come and bite me? That's a problem that we have with this country of ours. Because you see, people, you're gambling forward. You're saying, you know, one day I'd want to be a governor. I'll be in that position. Would I want this law? Would I want it to go against me? So that's the problem. And
do you agree that probably with the feeling that probably some of these sentences are not punitive enough? Enough to deter future...
First, Fred, I would like to say that I think ES is making progress. These issues are coming up and they are trying to deal with them. But this Waititu case, I think, yes, it's a genuine issue. It's a genuine issue that needs to be addressed. But why now? Why this time? Waititu has been there all this while, and this case has been in court. It's been silent. Why is it coming up right now when recently Waititu differed with the president and declared that he's going to go head-on with President Ruto on political issues? Number two, John Waluke was convicted of defrauding this country. Billions of money. I mean, and the guy still was cleared by ESCC, cleared by all offices that is needed, including IBC, and went for elections, and today he serves as member of parliament. So Waititu's case cannot be, we can't be told that Waititu's case is now the case study to determine how ESCC and the government is now fighting corruption. No. If the government is intentional about fighting corruption, we have serious cases, including, but not limited to the presidency.
Okay.
We have serious issues that need to be. If you go to ESCC today, there are a lot of files that have been kept low, just waiting for person A to change gears and differ with the government. Then the files are. I think the government need to be intentional on the fight against corruption. Number two, if you look at he's mentioned some files. The rate at which, I mean, the scheme at which we are using to go head on people on issues of corruption, we are using. We are sieving, we are handpicking. Who do we fight when, how, and where? Recently, AG gave us a report on how the MPs have been misusing funds. And Mwenge Mutuse was, they found out that in his constituency, he built a swimming pool of 9 million. You get that? And the swimming pool is non-functional. And there's no intention to make it functional. These are clear evidence that, this money has been misused. Why are they still scot-free? And he's not the only person. We have more than 30 MPs who are listed on that radar. Nothing has happened. That is enough evidence for ESCC to wake up and go and arrest those guys and take them to court and they pay back. Okay. This issue of waiting for somebody until they take political, there are some political differences. We need to stop it. You know, today, I'm saying this because today I might be on your side. And then I make some funny movements here and steal public funds. Because you are the president, I'm on your side, nothing will happen. But the day I differ with the ideas, now case starts. So I think ESCC must operate independently as it should. Okay. And it must deal with issues head-on as it should be.
Okay. Nick, do you share in those sentiments that probably the fight against corruption in Kenya is nothing more than a weaponization of politics and political differences? That this, even what we are seeing on the dailies today, is purely for political expediency? Nothing more than
I agree with both of my panel, Fred. But I look at it also on a different angle. Politics is an expensive affair. Waititu came into office in 2027 and 2017, and he looked to, let me say, regain back his money. So, which was the quickest way of him regaining back his money? Fred, it's also a question that we need to pose at this juncture. Is it a time that we look at this political process on how the funding process that goes on at individual capacity? Is it also a time we look at the economic stability of an individual coming into position of power? Such things that are also coming out, and they are making Kenyans to start having a conversation. Two, I'm looking at it on this angle whereby it took almost 4 years for justice to take place. Is it also time that we need to empower more our judiciary, Fred? Because 4 years for justice it's a long time. He was arraigned in court in July 19, 2021. It is over 4 years, Fred. And the people of Kiambu still have not probably missed a road, probably missed a hospital, probably missed a good school. So those are the things that are looming around, Fred. And then finally also the issue of politics, whereby if I'm not supporting you today, then tomorrow you get into government and you start coming for me. It's also something that we need to look at it. Okay. That is the government of the day targeting politicians.
All right.
Are they put in a position whereby if you don't support me, because of late Waititu has really been vocal. I agree with...
Although fraud is still fraud, whether or not you support whichever person you support.
Yeah, we agree. We agree.
In politics. The only question is, are we genuine in the fight against corruption beyond the window dressing or weaponization of the judicial process to actually fight political foes? Let's take a break right now on Morning Cafe. When we come back, we take a look at another court decision that has put someone in an awkward position. This time, Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula. We'll be right back.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47. We continue looking at the dailies today, the big headlines on the front page of the Standard. Kick out Wetangula, that's a big headline. This is a call by Azimio. From his public persona, no one can deny his gift of eloquence, which is coupled with a deep understanding of the law. The Speaker's latest ruling in Parliament has, however, not gone down well with the opposition and his low peers who are now calling for his ouster. All this started after the courts made a ruling that nullified or declared null and void a previous ruling by the Speaker of the National Assembly on who is a majority vis-a-vis minority in the National Assembly. There's also a separate mention on the issue of whether or not Moses Wetangula can still hold office as Speaker and still remain as party leader of Ford Kenya. Now, these are things playing out. Bwana Kabala, let's start with you. And we've seen the conduct of the Speaker of the National Assembly. Even when the president was in Western Kenya, him accompanying the president, and headlines read that this is a biased speaker. Do you agree that probably he has miscarried himself in that position?
When last this year's speaker akitokelezea kwa gari, giving out promises, Sandroff, giving out threats, Kalonzo, if you don't keep quiet, we're going to expose the truths that you don't want to be exposed. How many MPs does Kalonzo have in Parliament? What do other MPs in Azimio coalition feel when a speaker outrightly threatens? You know, I think these people, they confuse that the office you occupy, you need to carry yourself in such a manner or to dignify that office in whatever situation you are. So they try to, because I'm in Parliament, I'll behave this way. Now, because I'm in the streets, I'll act as a politician. So he has to decide. He has to pick one side. Will you be partisan or will you be a speaker? We all know what is expected of a speaker. Marende showed us. I never saw Marende campaigning. I never saw Marende in a car with Honorable Kibaki going and giving out promises and threats. So this is what he expected. This, of course, must. Even I applaud the Azimio brigade. They must push him to the corner. He has to explain where Kenya Kwanza got its majority. We know when they were elected, when the results were announced, Azimio had the majority. When did these parties move from Azimio to Kenya Kwanza? We, as PLP, formerly in Kenya, we resigned from Azimio. Do you know how long it took us for the registrar to finalize? Almost more than 5 to 6 months. So all these parties, there's none that has left Azimio officially. None has resigned. So I'd want to also see the letter that he read in Parliament.
All right.
Showing that these parties have left. Because I do not think it's a true reflection of what Azimio is then and now.
The entire Parliament under his leadership has come into question. A lot of criticism on how it has conducted itself. Lack of clarity on the minority and majority now with a broad-based arrangement. Issues to do with too much influence from the executive, members simply saying everything from the government will pass without editing out a comma or a full stop. Now, all this is happening under his leadership. Even his deputy going around and saying we only do what the president says. Definitely the fish rots from the head. Do you agree with this call that probably it's time for Moses Wetangula to go?
He ought to have been sent home earlier than now. Did you see, let's get back kidogo during the impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua. Speaker Wetangula pronounced himself in her funeral in Western that we are going to take that guy home. Gladys Boshole, the deputy speaker, pronounced herself in Rift Valley that they are going to, in fact, she said that you Gachagua, I will ensure personally, I take you home. You see, as a house of representation, the parliament, in fact, the speaker, the deputy, should not even have such conversations in public. Because that was a matter of public interest. They ought to have maintained impartiality and independence in dealing with that matter. Look at how Moses Wetangula has been running the affairs of the house. And recently, like he mentioned, he was in the sunroofs in in Bungoma, sending threats and communication from left, right. As a speaker of the assembly, that's a national assembly. We should operate independently from the executive. Moses Wetangula has clearly shown that he is actually part of the executive. He's a representative of the executive in parliament. You know that? Such that whatever, in fact, if he wants to make a decision, it seems like he moves out and consults the president. What should I do about this? Then gets back and decides, okay, this is the direction. This issue of majority and minority, the court pronounced itself that Azimio, Kenya Kwanza is not the majority in parliament. That decision was made based on the agreements that were signed before elections. And he mentioned, we've not seen post-election, agreements being signed. There are no evidence, there are no letters showing that we went to ORPP and we left Azimio, and these are the agreements we signed with Kenya Kwanza. Then it means, as it stands right now, Azimio coalition is the majority in that house. But the Speaker Wetangula, as it is the representative of the executive in Parliament, he did what the boss wanted him to do. But let me pull it down slightly. We've seen there's a serious assault or attack on those leaders who opposed the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. And as you can see here on the Star, we've seen Senator Murango James of Kirinyaga, Karungo Thangwa, John Metu, Seki, and Nyutu. They've been de-whipped from their committees. You see, the type of government that we are having, we have a government that is not agenda-based. We have a government that politicizes every bit, every issue, it's politicized. These leaders were just saying that we have a different thinking. They were saying that you are saying this, but we are thinking in this direction. Can we just sit down and agree on one common thinking? But the government feels like, no, it is either our way or you go. So you see, they've been sent out, they've been de-whipped from those committees, and the reason is you are supporting Rigathi Gachagua. Let me ask you, Fred. If you look at the grounds under which Rigathi Gachagua was impeached, and I was in Bomas and I read those, President William Ruto qualifies as well to be impeached on those grounds. And that's a discussion we had here, even on the day of impeachment. The guy qualifies. But why would he give orders? Because these are things that are happening under his orders. And then those seats were offered to ODM. Look at that. In disguise of soothing, so that in the future they can form something like a coalition. But what I want to make clear is one. We have a government or a regime that is not issue-based. We have a regime that politicizes everything. They want to politicize the judiciary. They want to politicize the parliament. They want to politicize the executive, how it operates. Okay. Now we have they've captured the speaker. And we don't even have a doubt about the deputy, because the deputy Nae, she was on that side from the onset.
The question now is, this talk by Azimio that we're going to kick out Moses Wetangula, is it anything more than hot air, given the kind of machinations behind the scenes right now, even sharing of committee slots to quell the upheaval within ODM?
This issue had been sorted by the court, that Azimio is a majority party. Moses Wetangula, in his own wisdom or lack of it, and with consultation from the executive, came and decided that Kenya Kwanza remains to be majority. Kenya Kwanza MPs went outside the parliament, did a presser to explain why they are the majority. Now, short after that, we saw Kenya Kwanza de-whipping senators and MPs who are aligned to Rigathi Gachagua and issuing those seats to ODM. So you see, it's a business that is happening. They are in business. So in as much as some of the Azimio, MPs, specifically ODM, saying that we are going to remove Wetangula, they have to come on the table with clean hands. All you cannot remove him on the other side, while on the left side, you are receiving goodies from them.
All right. Nick, do you agree that probably now we are stuck with this parliament, as lopsided as it is, that however much noise and threats Azimio MPs issue, nothing will happen? We'll stick with a biased speaker to the end of this parliamentary session.
First, I have to applaud the judiciary or the courts for making a ruling on that issue of majority and minority, because it sets precedent that we can have a government of the day which is not a majority in parliament, Fred. So that is something that it's a conversation where we need to pick as a country. Secondly, I said it here 2 weeks back that Wetangula's goose has already been cooked. because he's doomed if he does, he's doomed if he does not. Fred. One, on the other hand, he's a party leader of Ford Kenya. And the UDA party is closing in by the day. He either decides to be in UDA, as Mudavadi party decided, or he goes home. That's what this other side is saying. This other side of ODM are saying, look, you said it's going to be messy. We're also promising you that it's about to be messy. That. So, Wetangula's issue that him remaining as a speaker is just a number of days. Fred.
You feel that Azimio MPs will carry out their threat?
It's not just Azimio's issue, it's a parliament issue. Mm-hmm. Because as we speak today, some of the seats that some leaders of Kenya Kwanza's were holding have been given to Azimio. Mm-hmm. So it's the troops are closing in to Wetangula. And we've seen Peter Kaluma. He's speaking as if he's the next speaker in parliament.
Yet we see that probably Kenya Kwanza, and after that impeachment of the deputy president and the fallout that came after that, would be a bit hesitant to stir the waters again so soon. Do you think it's politically that easy for Kenya Kwanza probably to push for another impeachment of a senior ranking member of government?
But is it Kenya Kwanza against Azimio, or is it Kenya Kwanza against Azimio, or Kenya Kwanza ODM against Azimio?
Any impeachment would require at least the assistance of members from Kenya Kwanza. ODM alone would not be able to impeach.
That's why I'm saying. Mm-hmm. It's a Kenya Kwanza ODM brotherhood against Azimio. Mm-hmm. You've heard them say, the Azimio brigade, how many of the parties that we left behind are receiving the goodies that ODM is receiving? None. This is a Kenya Kwanza ODM government. Mm-hmm. And for Wetangula, him being removed, that means majority ODM, Azimio, but majority is ODM within Azimio. Meaning the speaker will come from
ODM.
Mm-hmm. So who's gaining and not in power? ODM. Mm-hmm. Who has one foot in opposition, the other in government? ODM. Yeah. So for Kenya Kwanza, they're just opportunistic in the sense that they're trying to survive. And the only person that will help them survive this time round is ODM. Mm-hmm. You see? So to them, it's not a risk. It's a gamble that's working.
Isn't it too risky when now ODM is claiming its pound of flesh more and more, eating into parliamentary committees? Now the position of speaker, you say? Surely Kenya Kwanza could be giving in too much.
I don't think it's risky, because remember, every time the Kenya Kwanza brigade speaks about the failures of Uhuru Kenyatta, they suddenly forget Ruto, Honorable William, was the deputy president.
For 10 years.
For 10 years. So that's the same narrative ODM will use. Were we in power? Mm-hmm. Was Raila the president? Who was the president? We offered, you already had experts. The narrative that they're saying. We offered experts. Fred, Oparanya was a deputy party leader. You have to tell me that's an expert. Just someone, that's just someone who was in ODM that we've given away. That's a major leader. So to ODM, and they'll continue. Mind you, if Raila wins, takes over AUC, ODM will continue inching in into the government.
Mm-hmm. So Wetangula's goose is cooked?
Completely. And just to add on what he's saying, Wetangula, he has two issues that he's fighting right now. Being ousted as the speaker or being ousted as the party leader of Ford Kenya. So he has to decide whether he'll remain as the party leader of Ford Kenya and relinquish the speakership, or remains with the speakership, which he's not even certain, and relinquish the party leadership. And we have to look at who is benefiting in all this carcass. If Wetangula ceases to be a party leader of Ford Kenya, then it means Ford Kenya will be swallowed into UDA. Mm-hmm. Get that? If he relinquishes the speaker seat, then ODM takes over the speakership. So whichever way is going, whichever direction Wetangula goes, he must collapse.
He's doomed.
Get that? Mambo yake imeiva. And just on the issue of ODM getting into government and eating almost everything, President William Samoei Ruto is looking at orange counties to secure a second term. He's very keen on capturing the orange counties. That is the strongholds of BAMBA and all other sides. So he's willing to give out everything, provided that he secures that second term. Okay. That in fact, if Ruto was told today that sacrifice all Kenya Kwanza MPs and you become a president in 2027, he will send everybody home for long as he himself is getting back to State House.
Gentlemen, allow me to wrap up this edition because we are being moved to a different set. Today being Valentine's Day, a lot is happening around here. But I would want you to make mention, because tomorrow is a big day for Kenya. The big headline on the Daily Nation is how Raila AUC vote will shape Ruto 2027 race. As you make your final comment, kindly just spend that 1 minute or so talking about the AUC elections tomorrow and how you see it going. Will Monday be a very different day in as far as Kenyan politics is concerned? Kabala.
I'd want first to say that the AUC should stop being used as a retirement package plan for outgoing politicians and be used as a platform to spring Africa into the future. Mind you, 70% of Africans are below the average age of the people or the candidates in the ballot paper. But what happens is we start by not draining our swamp at home, leading to leaders, African leaders, who are beyond a particular age. I hope you get me, huh? Okay. But having said that, Raila has done his part. Raila's campaign was well planned when he started. He started with Museveni. Museveni, as Uganda, a member of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, was to bring in the Muslim vote. We have around 21 countries in Africa that are Muslim states. He went to Ramaphosa, who was to bring him SADC. You know, he went to Obasanjo to help him with ECOWAS. But now, unfortunately, today morning, we see the intricacies of this campaign. Odinga's quest suffers a blow yesterday after South Africa blow. Rallies are behind James Richard. So I think he started well. He did very well. Okay. But now the complexity of the vote, it also becomes very difficult, because I've seen his team says they have 28 votes. They've secured 28, but we know they have 19. Okay. You know, so I foresee a situation where we'll go to a runoff. A runoff, Djibouti and Kenya.
So it's not a done deal on the front.
This is not a done deal.
Okay.
It's not a done deal.
Yeah, I think from my end, I will just wish Mzee all the best. He's tried, you know, even putting himself at that age, putting himself in that space to at least sit at the chairmanship of the AU is a step that requires more courage and energy. So I'll just wish him the best, but as he has mentioned, it won't be a walk in the park that like some other quarters are trying to make. In fact, today, if you even post something, yesterday I posted on my Facebook page just asking, because you know right now everybody who's affiliated to ODM is indicating that they're in Addis. So I asked that now that all ODM members are in Addis, who is protecting the majority seat? And it was a war. so I think it's not something that we need to be fighting fighting over something. But we wish him well. He's representing the entire country. You know, when he's there, he's representing even myself. If he loses, people from Uganda will say that Kenya lost and I'm part of it. So we just wish him the well, but runoff is likely.
Nick, just a minute, 60 seconds as we wrap up.
This is Baba's moment, and ideally, as my colleague says, Baba's shaken the entire of Africa. Nobody in the history of Kenya has done so. And the large expectation is, because Baba has lost so many elections, the expectation is he's going to lose. But what does it mean if he wins or loses in our Kenyan politics? If he wins, then the Kenya Kwanza government will have a sigh relief. But if he loses, I will tell you, Fred, President Ruto might start packing. But all in all, we wish Baba the best, because he's a Kenyan like all of us, and he's our country.
24 hours to go before the AUC elections happen in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and all eyes will be there. Thank you so much, Nick Mwangi, SG, Kenya Hadi Party, Ken Babu, Opposition Youth Chair, and Kabala Kile, National Deputy Chairperson, People's Liberation Party, our panelists this morning on the youth perspective right here on Morning Cafe. Just a reminder, today is Valentine's Day. A lot more coming up. DJ Granite is in the house. Vijana Barubaru as well. The set is ready. Let's now move from where we are and take a look at what's happening elsewhere.